Marcus Williams stared at his empty bank account on his phone screen, the numbers glowing like a harsh reminder of his reality. His 7-year-old daughter Emma was sleeping in the next room, unaware that her father had been awake for 3 hours trying to figure out how to pay next month's rent. The construction job he'd lost 2 weeks ago had been his lifeline after his wife Sarah left them both for what she called a better life in California. The morning sunlight filtered through their small apartment's thin curtains as Marcus made Emma's favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese. She bounded into the kitchen wearing her school uniform, her curly hair bouncing with each step. Her bright smile was the only thing that kept Marcus going these days. "Daddy, can we go to the zoo this weekend?" Emma asked, climbing onto her chair at their small dining table. Marcus forced a smile, knowing the zoo entry fee was money they didn't have. "We'll see, sweetheart. Eat your eggs before they get cold." After dropping Emma at school, Marcus drove his old pickup truck to the employment office downtown. The waiting room was filled with other people like him, tired faces, worn clothes, and the heavy weight of financial stress hanging over everyone. When his number was finally called, Mrs. Rodriguez, the counselor, looked through his file with a frown. "Construction work is slow right now, Marcus, but I have something different here." She pulled out a folder and studied it carefully. "There's a woman looking for a live-in nanny. The pay is excellent, but it's unusual." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "A nanny? I don't know anything about being a nanny." "You're a single father who's been raising Emma alone for 2 years. That's more childcare experience than most applicants have." Mrs. Rodriguez slid the paper across her desk. "Victoria Sterling. She's a successful businesswoman who needs someone to care for her 8-year-old son while she travels. She specifically requested someone with parenting experience." The address on the paper was in Millbrook Heights, the wealthy neighborhood. Marcus had only driven through when taking shortcuts across town. The salary listed made his eyes widen. It was 3 times what he'd made in construction. "There's a catch, isn't there?" Marcus asked. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded. "She's very particular. The last 3 nannies quit within a month. Her son Tyler apparently has some behavioral challenges, and Mrs. Sterling has very specific requirements about how her household should run." Marcus thought about Emma's school fees that were due next week, their overdue rent notice, and the empty refrigerator at home. "When can I meet her?" 2 hours later, Marcus found himself driving through iron, gates that probably cost more than his annual salary. The Sterling mansion looked like something from a magazine. Perfectly manicured lawns, a circular driveway with a fountain in the center, and windows that sparkled in the afternoon sun. Victoria Sterling answered the door herself, which surprised Marcus. She was younger than he'd expected, probably in her early 30s, with sharp green eyes and blonde hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She wore a business suit that looked expensive and examined Marcus from head to toe like she was inspecting a piece of furniture. "Mr. Williams, I presume. You're late." Her voice was crisp and professional. Marcus checked his watch. He was actually 2 minutes early. "I believe I'm on time, Mrs. Sterling." She studied him for a moment, then stepped aside. "Come in. We have much to discuss." The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, artwork covered the walls, and everything was spotlessly clean. Marcus felt out of place in his best jeans and button-down shirt, which suddenly seemed shabby in comparison to the luxury surrounding him. "Tyler is at his piano lesson," Victoria said, leading Marcus to a sitting room with furniture that looked like museum pieces. "Tell me about your experience with children." For the next hour, Marcus talked about raising Emma, dealing with her nightmares after her mother left, helping with homework, cooking meals, and managing bedtime routines. Victoria listened without expression, occasionally making notes on a tablet. "Your references check out," she said finally. "Your former employer says you're reliable and hardworking. Your daughter's school principal speaks highly of your involvement in her education." Marcus was surprised she'd already called his references. "You work fast. I don't have time to waste. My business requires extensive travel, and Tyler needs consistent care. His father isn't in the picture, so it's just us." Victoria's expression softened slightly when she mentioned her son. "He's a bright boy, but he's been through a lot. His last few caregivers couldn't handle his energy. At that moment, a door slammed somewhere in the house, followed by the sound of running footsteps. A boy with messy brown hair and dirt on his clothes burst into the room, stopping short when he saw Marcus. "Who's this?" Tyler asked, eyeing Marcus suspiciously. "This is Mr. Williams. He might be your new caregiver," Victoria said, her voice becoming formal again. Tyler crossed his arms. "I don't need a caregiver, I'm 8 years old." Marcus smiled, remembering Emma's similar declaration of independence. 8 is pretty grown up. I bet you can do a lot of things by yourself. I can make my own sandwich, and I know how to do my laundry, and I can walk to school by myself, Tyler said proudly. "Those are important skills," Marcus agreed. "My daughter, Emma, is 7, and she's still learning some of those things." Tyler's expression changed slightly. "You have a daughter?" "I do. She's at school right now, but maybe you could meet her sometime." Victoria watched this exchange with interest. "Tyler, go wash your hands. Mr. Williams and I need to finish talking." After Tyler left, Victoria leaned back in her chair. "He liked you. That's unusual. He seems like a good kid. He is when he's not acting out. The last nanny quit after. He put plastic wrap over the toilet seat. The one before that left when he hid all her shoes." Victoria almost smiled. "He's testing boundaries." Marcus chuckled. "Emma once put salt in my coffee to see if I'd notice. Kids do things like that when they're feeling uncertain about their world." "Exactly." Victoria stood up. "The position comes with a salary of $6,000 per month, plus room and board. You'd have your own wing of the house, and there's space for your daughter if needed. I traveled 2 weeks out of every month, sometimes more during busy seasons." Marcus tried not to show how desperately he needed this job. "What exactly would my responsibilities include?" "Getting Tyler ready for school, helping with homework, preparing meals, driving him to activities, and managing his schedule. When I'm home, I handle bedtime routines, but when I'm traveling, everything falls to you." Victoria handed him a thick folder. House rules, Tyler's schedule, emergency contacts, dietary restrictions, and behavioral guidelines are all in here. Marcus flipped through the folder, noting the detailed instructions for everything from morning routines to acceptable snack options. "This is very thorough. I run a multi-million-dollar consulting firm, Mr. Williams. Organization and attention to detail aren't just preferences, they're requirements." Victoria's eyes met his. "Can you handle that level of responsibility?" Looking around the opulent room, thinking about Emma's worn school shoes and their empty refrigerator, Marcus knew he didn't have a choice. But more than that, he saw something in Tyler's eyes that reminded him of Emma during those first difficult months after Sarah left. A kid who needed stability and understanding. "When do I start?" 3 days later, Marcus loaded his and Emma's belongings into his pickup truck. Everything they owned fit easily in the back, a humbling reminder of how much their lives had changed since Sarah left. Emma sat in the passenger seat, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit and staring wide-eyed at the mansion as they drove through the gates. "Daddy, are we really going to live in a castle?" she whispered. Marcus laughed despite his nervousness. "It's not exactly a castle, sweetheart, but it's pretty fancy." Victoria met them at the front door, dressed in another perfect business suit. She shook Emma's hand formally, which made the little girl giggle. "Welcome to our home, Emma. Tyler is in the game room if you'd like to meet him properly." The wing Victoria had assigned them was larger than their entire apartment. Marcus and Emma each had their own bedroom, and they shared a sitting area with a small kitchenette. Emma ran from room to room, her eyes growing bigger with each discovery. "There's a TV in my bedroom," she called out. "And look at this bathtub. It's huge." While Emma explored, Victoria showed Marcus around the main house. The kitchen was every chef's dream with commercial-grade appliances and granite countertops. A housekeeper named Maria came in 3 times a week, Victoria explained. But daily meals and tidiness were Marcus's responsibility. "Tyler's dietary restrictions are in the folder," Victoria said, opening the massive refrigerator. "No artificial colors, minimal sugar, and he's allergic to shellfish. He's also going through a phase where he only eats foods that are green or white. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Green or white foods? Broccoli, lettuce, cauliflower, chicken, rice, green apples. It started 2 months ago. His pediatrician says it's normal for children his age to have food phases, so I'm allowing it within reason. They found the children in Tyler's game room, which looked like a toy store had exploded. Video games, building blocks, art supplies, and books covered every surface. Tyler was showing Emma his collection of remote control cars while she watched, with fascination. "This one goes 50 miles per hour, Tyler said proudly, revving the engine. "That's faster than my daddy's truck," Emma replied, which made Tyler beam with pride. Victoria checked her watch. "I have a conference call in 10 minutes. Tyler, show Emma the backyard, but stay away from the pool area." She turned to Marcus. "Dinner is usually at 6:30. Tyler's bedtime routine starts at 8. After Victoria left, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was in charge of 2 children now, in a house that probably cost more than he'd make in a lifetime, working for a woman who demanded perfection in everything. The first challenge came within an hour. Tyler decided to test Marcus by climbing onto the kitchen counter to reach the cookie jar on top of the refrigerator. When Marcus told him to get down, Tyler crossed his arms and declared he didn't have to listen to him. "You're not my dad," Tyler said defiantly. "You can't tell me what to do." Emma looked between them nervously. She'd never seen another child challenge an adult so directly. Marcus kept his voice calm. "You're right, I'm not your dad. But I am responsible for keeping you safe, and standing on the counter isn't safe. If you want a cookie, ask me and I'll get it for you." "I don't want to ask. I want to get it myself." "I understand that. But house rules are house rules. Your mom left me in charge, which means I need to make sure nothing bad happens to you." Tyler considered this, then climbed down from the counter. "Fine. Can I have a cookie?" "After dinner, yes. Right now, how about we make that dinner together?" Cooking, with 2 children, proved to be an adventure. Tyler insisted on doing everything himself, which resulted in eggshells in the scrambled eggs and salt scattered across the counter. Emma tried to help but accidentally knocked over a container of flour, creating a white cloud that covered half the kitchen. By the time Victoria returned from her call, the kitchen looked like a war zone. Flour covered the counters, there were egg fragments on the floor, and all 3 of them were covered in various food ingredients. Victoria stood in the doorway, her mouth slightly open. "What happened here?" "We made dinner," Tyler announced proudly. "I did the eggs all by myself." Marcus braced himself for Victoria's reaction, expecting anger or criticism about the mess. Instead, she looked at Tyler's beaming face and something in her expression softened. "You made dinner by yourself? That's quite an accomplishment." She looked at the table, where Marcus had managed to salvage the meal and present it properly. "It smells delicious." During dinner, Tyler chattered excitedly about everything he'd done with Marcus and Emma. He told his mother about the cookie negotiation, about helping cook, and about showing Emma his car collection. "Mr. Marcus didn't yell when I spilled the flour," Tyler said between bites, "and he let me crack the eggs even though I'm not very good at it yet." Victoria glanced at Marcus. "Most adults get frustrated when children make messes while learning." "Messes clean up," Marcus said simply. "Learning happens when kids feel safe to try things, even if they don't do them perfectly the first time." After dinner, Marcus supervised cleanup while the children helped. Tyler surprised him by being thorough and methodical, clearly used to maintaining the house's high standards. Emma followed Tyler's lead, carefully wiping down surfaces and putting items back in their proper places. Bedtime brought the next challenge. Tyler's routine was elaborate, specific pajamas that had to be laid out in a particular way, teeth brushed for exactly 2 minutes while listening to a particular song, and 3 books read in a specific order. Any deviation from the routine resulted in protests and anxiety. "Emma doesn't have to do all this stuff," Tyler complained when Marcus insisted on the full routine. "Everyone has different routines," Marcus explained. "Emma's routine is simpler, but it's still important to her. Your routine helps you feel ready for sleep." As Marcus read the third required book, Tyler's eyes began to droop. Halfway through the story, the boy was fast asleep. Marcus carefully tucked the blankets around him and turned off the main light, leaving only a small nightlight glowing. In the hallway, he found Victoria waiting. "He usually fights bedtime for at least an hour," she said quietly. "How did you manage that so quickly?" Marcus shrugged. "I followed his routine exactly like you wrote it down. Kids feel secure when they know what to expect." Victoria studied him for a moment. The other caregivers thought his routines were excessive. They tried to simplify things or skip steps when they thought he wouldn't notice. Routines aren't about convenience for adults. They're about helping children feel safe and in control of their world. Marcus thought about Emma's own bedtime, rituals developed after Sarah left. When everything else in a kid's life feels uncertain, routines become anchors. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Victoria spoke again. "I leave for Chicago tomorrow morning. It's a 3-day trip. Think you can handle everything on your own?" Marcus felt a flutter of nervousness but nodded. "We'll be fine. Tyler has piano lessons Tuesday and Thursday after school, soccer practice on Wednesday, and a play date Saturday afternoon. All the details are in your folder." Victoria handed him a credit card for groceries, activities, and any emergencies. "The household account has no limit, but I expect receipts for everything." Later that night, after Emma was asleep in her new bedroom, Marcus sat in their little sitting area reviewing Tyler's schedule and house rules. The responsibility felt enormous. He was caring for the child of a millionaire, living in a house worth more than most people's annual salaries, and expected to maintain standards he'd never experienced before. His phone buzzed with a text from his old construction buddy Jake. "How's life in the mansion, fancy pants?" Marcus smiled and typed back, "Ask me again in a week." As he prepared for bed, Marcus checked on both children. Emma was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. In Tyler's room, the boy was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging over the side, looking younger and more vulnerable than he did during the day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, Marcus knew. Victoria would be gone, leaving him fully responsible for Tyler's well-being and happiness. But for the first time in months, Marcus felt hopeful. Maybe this arrangement could work for all of them. Maybe they could become something like a family. Even if it wasn't traditional, he just had to prove himself worthy of the trust Victoria was placing in him. No pressure at all. Victoria left for Chicago at dawn, her black sedan disappearing through the gates while Tyler pressed his face against the kitchen window. Marcus noticed the boy's shoulders slump as the car vanished, and he recognized that particular sadness from Emma's face during those first weeks after Sarah left. "Your mom will be back Thursday evening," Marcus said gently, setting a plate of green scrambled eggs in front of Tyler. "I know." Tyler's voice was small. "She always comes back, but she always leaves again too." Emma, who was working her way through a stack of pancakes, looked up with concern. "My mommy left and didn't come back at all, but I have my daddy and now we live here with you." Tyler considered this piece of information with the seriousness only children could bring to such topics. "Do you miss her?" Emma nodded. "Sometimes. But Daddy says it's okay to miss people and still be happy where you are." Marcus felt his chest tighten at his daughter's wisdom. These two children, both dealing with absent mothers in their own ways, were finding common ground in ways he hadn't expected. The first real test came Tuesday morning when Tyler announced he felt sick and couldn't go to school. Marcus checked for fever, examined Tyler's throat, and asked about specific symptoms. Everything seemed normal, but Tyler insisted his stomach hurt too much for school. "On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does your stomach feel?" Marcus asked. Tyler considered seriously. 7, maybe 8. Marcus had learned to read Emma's fake sick days, and Tyler's performance wasn't quite convincing. But instead of calling him out directly, Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds pretty uncomfortable. I think you should spend the day resting in bed, no video games, no TV, just rest. Emma and I will be quiet so we don't disturb you." Tyler's face fell. "I have to stay in bed all day?" If your stomach hurts that badly, rest is the best medicine. I'll bring you some plain toast and water in a little while." By 10 o'clock, Tyler emerged from his room claiming to feel much better. "I think the rest helped," he said hopefully. Marcus smiled. "That's great news. Since you're feeling better, you can help me with some chores around the house. Sick days are for recovering, but once you're recovered, we should stay productive." Tyler realized his plan had backfired but accepted his fate with good humor. They spent the morning organizing the game room and preparing vegetables for dinner. Tyler proved to be a careful worker when given clear instructions and genuine responsibility. "Why didn't you just tell me I wasn't really sick?" Tyler asked while washing lettuce. "Were you really sick?" Marcus asked back. Tyler thought about it. "No. I just didn't want to go to school because we have a math test today." "Ah, so you were worried about the test, not actually sick." "Yeah." Marcus nodded. Being worried about something difficult is normal, but missing school doesn't make the test go away. It just means you'll have to take it tomorrow without today's review. Tyler's eyes widened. "I didn't think about that." They spent the afternoon reviewing Tyler's math worksheets. Marcus discovered that Tyler was actually quite good at math but got anxious during tests because he worried about disappointing his mother with bad grades. "What happens if you get a problem wrong?" Marcus asked. "Mom gets upset. Not mad upset, but disappointed upset. Which is worse?" Marcus understood that pressure. "What if we practice until you feel confident, and then whatever grade you get is just information about what we need to work on next?" The concept seemed revolutionary to Tyler. They worked through practice problems until Tyler was solving them easily, chatting and laughing as they went. Wednesday brought the soccer practice challenge. Tyler loved playing soccer but hated the drive to the fields because it reminded him of the times his mother was too busy to attend his games. When Marcus packed snacks and announced he'd be staying to watch practice, Tyler looked skeptical. "You don't have to watch. Mom usually just drops me off." "I want to watch," Marcus said simply. "Emma's excited to see how soccer works." The practice field was filled with luxury SUVs and well-dressed parents who clearly knew each other well. Marcus felt out of place in his jeans and pickup truck, but Emma was fascinated by everything. "Look how fast they run," she whispered as the team warmed up. Tyler played with skill and enthusiasm, but Marcus noticed he kept glancing toward the sidelines where Marcus and Emma sat on their folding chairs. Each time Tyler caught Marcus watching, his playing seemed to improve. After practice, Tyler ran over with grass stains on his knees and a huge grin. "Did you see my goal?" "I saw it. That was amazing footwork," Marcus said, offering Tyler a water bottle and towel. Several other parents approached to introduce themselves, curious about Tyler's new caregiver. Marcus answered their questions politely while keeping his focus on Tyler, who was basking in the attention. "It's nice to see Tyler so happy," commented Mrs. Henderson, whose son played goalkeeper. "He usually seems rather serious." That evening, Victoria called to check in. Tyler chattered excitedly about his math test success, soccer practice, and the elaborate fort he and Emma had built in the backyard. "You sound like you're having a good week," Victoria said, and Marcus could hear the smile in her voice. "Marcus lets us help cook dinner every night," Tyler said, "and he doesn't mind if we make mistakes. Emma dropped a whole onion on the floor yesterday, and he just said, 'Well, now we know onions bounce.'" After Tyler went to bed, Victoria stayed on the line to talk with Marcus. "He sounds different," she said quietly. "Lighter somehow. He's a good kid. He just needed someone to notice that being 8 years old is hard work sometimes." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "His father left when Tyler was 4. Since then it's been just us, and I've tried to be everything to him. But my work requires so much travel, and I worry constantly that I'm failing him." Marcus looked through the doorway toward Tyler's room. "You're not failing him. He talks about you constantly. How smart you are, how proud he is of your work, how you read to him even when you're exhausted. He knows you love him. But I'm not here enough. Love isn't just about time, Victoria. It's about making the time you have matter. Tyler feels secure in your love. That's why he can accept care from other people without feeling like he's betraying you." Thursday evening, Victoria returned home to find Tyler and Emma in the kitchen, carefully preparing a welcome home dinner. Tyler had insisted on making her favorite salad, and Emma had drawn a picture of the three of them in the kitchen. "Welcome home, Mom." Tyler launched himself into Victoria's arms with an enthusiasm that made her eyes water. "Wait until you taste our dinner. Marcus taught me how to make vinaigrette." During dinner, Victoria watched Marcus navigate the children's competing conversation topics with patience and humor. He asked Emma about her school day, while helping Tyler explain the soccer rules he'd been learning. Somehow he managed to make both children feel heard and important. Later, after both children were in bed, Victoria found Marcus in the kitchen finishing the dishes. "You don't have to do that," she said. "Maria will be here tomorrow." "I don't mind. It helps me think." Marcus rinsed the last plate and turned to face her. "How was Chicago?" "Productive, but I found myself thinking about home more than usual." Victoria leaned against the counter. "Tyler seems happier, more confident." "He's always been confident. He just needed permission to show it." Victoria studied Marcus's face. "What made you decide to take this job?" "Really?" Marcus dried his hands on a dish towel, considering his answer. "Honestly, I was desperate. Emma and I were about to lose our apartment and I couldn't find steady work." He paused. "But after meeting Tyler, it became about more than just the money. He reminds me of Emma right after her mother left. This brave kid trying to act like everything is fine while carrying too much worry for someone so young." "And now?" Marcus smiled. "Now I think maybe we're all helping each other figure out how to be a family, even if it's not the traditional kind." Victoria felt something shift in her chest, a loosening of tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. For the first time in years, coming home felt like arriving somewhere safe rather than just stopping between business trips. "I have another trip next week," she said. 5 days in Seattle." "We'll be fine," Marcus assured her. "Tyler wants to teach Emma how to play chess, and I promised we'd build a treehouse in the backyard." As Victoria headed upstairs to her room, she found herself looking forward to the next 5 days in a way that surprised her. Not because she'd be away working, but because she'd be coming home to something that was beginning to feel like the family she'd always wanted, but never thought possible. 2 months into the arrangement, Marcus thought he had everything figured out. The routine was smooth. Tyler and Emma had bonded like actual siblings, and Victoria seemed more relaxed when she was home. Then Tyler's biological father decided to reappear. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Marcus was helping both children with homework at the kitchen table. Victoria had been in New York for 3 days and they'd settled into their comfortable routine when the phone rang. Sterling residence, Marcus answered professionally, as Victoria had trained him. "Who is this?" The man's voice was sharp, demanding. "Where's Victoria?" "Mrs. Sterling is traveling on business. Can I take a message?" "This is David Chen, Tyler's father. I want to speak to my son." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Tyler looked up from his math worksheet, curious about the sudden tension in Marcus's voice. "Let me get Tyler for you," Marcus said carefully. Tyler's face changed completely when Marcus handed him the phone. All the confidence and happiness drained away, replaced by cautious uncertainty. "Hi, Dad," Tyler said quietly, moving to the corner of the kitchen for privacy. Marcus busied himself helping Emma while keeping one ear on Tyler's conversation. It was brief and seemed to consist mostly of Tyler saying, "Okay," and "Yes, sir," in increasingly small voices. When Tyler hung up, he stood frozen by the phone for a long moment. "Everything okay, buddy?" Marcus asked gently. Tyler nodded without looking up. "My dad wants to see me this weekend. He's picking me up Saturday morning." Emma looked confused. "I thought you said your dad didn't live with you." "He doesn't. He lives far away and has a new family now." Tyler's voice was matter-of-fact, but Marcus could see the careful control he was exerting. "Sometimes he visits." That evening, Marcus called Victoria to inform her about David's call. Her reaction was immediate and sharp. "He can't just show up demanding to see Tyler whenever it's convenient for him," Victoria said, anger crackling through the phone. "He hasn't called in 6 months. What should I have done differently?" Marcus asked, worried he'd handled it wrong. Victoria sighed. You did fine. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at him. David has this pattern of disappearing from Tyler's life, and then reappearing with grand gestures when it suits him. How does Tyler usually react to these visits? Badly. He gets excited beforehand, then disappointed during, then withdrawn for weeks afterward. Victoria's voice was tired. But legally I can't prevent the visits. David has partial custody rights even though he rarely exercises them. Friday evening, Tyler was unusually quiet during dinner. He picked at his food and answered questions, with single words. Emma tried her usual tactics to cheer him up, but nothing worked. At bedtime, Tyler asked Marcus to stay while he got into his pajamas. Marcus, what if my dad doesn't like me? The question hit Marcus hard. What makes you think he wouldn't like you? Tyler shrugged, but Marcus could see the genuine worry in his eyes. He left because I was too much trouble. Mom says that's not true. But why else would he leave and start a new family? Marcus sat on the edge of Tyler's bed, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes adults make decisions that have nothing to do with their children, but seem like they do. Your dad leaving wasn't about you not being good enough. But what if I'm boring now? What if he expects me to be different? Tyler, listen to me. Marcus waited until the boy met his eyes. You are funny, smart, kind, and interesting exactly as you are. If someone can't see that, the problem is with them, not with you. Saturday, morning brought chaos. David Chen arrived in an expensive sports car, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. He was handsome and polished, and he looked at Marcus like he was trying to figure out what exactly he was. You must be the nanny, David said dismissively. Where's Victoria? She's in New York. I'm Marcus Williams, Tyler's caregiver. Marcus kept his voice professional despite his instant dislike for the man. Tyler appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in his best clothes and carrying a small overnight bag. He looked nervous but hopeful. Hey, sport. David's voice became artificially cheerful. Ready for an adventure? Emma watched from the kitchen doorway as Tyler hugged Marcus goodbye. Be good, Marcus whispered. And remember what we talked about. David barely acknowledged Emma's shy wave, which immediately raised Marcus's protective instincts. Any decent adult would at least say hello to a child. The day dragged endlessly. Marcus tried to keep Emma entertained, but he found himself checking his phone constantly and looking out the window. Victoria called twice for updates, her worry evident despite her attempts to sound casual. Tyler returned Sunday evening quiet and deflated. David walked him to the door but didn't come inside, clearly eager to leave. See you soon, sport, David said, but it sounded hollow. Tyler nodded and mumbled goodbye, then dragged his bag inside. Marcus thanked David politely and closed the door, relieved to have the man gone. How was your weekend? Marcus asked carefully. Tyler shrugged. Fine. During dinner, Tyler pushed food around his plate while Emma chattered about their Saturday activities. He answered direct questions but offered no details about his time with his father. At bedtime, the truth finally came out. Tyler sat on his bed, still fully dressed, staring at his hands. We went to a fancy restaurant for lunch, Tyler said quietly. Dad spent the whole time on his phone talking about work. Then we went to his apartment and he had to take more calls, so I just watched TV by myself. Marcus waited, sensing there was more. He has pictures of his new family everywhere, but none of me. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. His stepdaughter is 6, and she's really pretty and smart. He kept talking about how well she's doing in school and how proud he is of her. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest but kept his voice gentle. That must have hurt. Tyler nodded, finally looking up with tears in his eyes. He asked me about school, but when I told him about my math test and soccer, he just said, "That's nice," and went back to his phone. It was like he was doing a job instead of wanting to spend time with me. I'm sorry, Tyler. That's not how visits with your dad should feel. The worst part was when he dropped me off. He said we should do this again soon, but he said it the same way the dentist says, "See you in 6 months." Tyler wiped his eyes with his sleeve, like it was something he had to do, not something he wanted to do. Marcus pulled Tyler into a hug, feeling the boy's shoulders shake with suppressed sobs. "You deserve so much better than that. Why doesn't he love me the way he loves his new daughter?" Marcus's heart broke for this child who was trying so hard to understand adult failures. "I think your dad does love you, Tyler, but some people don't know how to show love well. That's about his limitations, not about you being unlovable." They talked for another hour, with Tyler sharing more details about the awkward weekend. David had taken him to expensive places but hadn't engaged with him personally. Every activity felt performative, designed to look good rather than create genuine connection. When Victoria returned Monday evening, she took one look at Tyler's subdued demeanor and knew exactly what had happened. "Rough weekend?" she asked gently. Settling beside Tyler on the couch, Tyler nodded and curled up against his mother's side. "Dad has a whole different life now. I don't think I fit in it anymore." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "That's his loss, sweetheart. You fit perfectly in our life." Later, after both children were in bed, Victoria found the transition to their new arrangement happened gradually over the next few weeks. Victoria accepted the position with reduced travel, and Marcus's role evolved from caregiver to something more like a partner in managing their household and family life. But with change came unexpected challenges that tested their newly formed bonds. The first major test came from an unexpected source: Emma's biological mother, Sarah, who called on a Thursday evening just as they were finishing dinner. Marcus's face went pale when he saw the number on his phone. He hadn't heard from Sarah in over 6 months, and her timing seemed deliberately calculated to cause maximum disruption. "Hello, Sarah," Marcus said, stepping into the next room for privacy. Victoria immediately noticed the change in atmosphere. Tyler and Emma both sensed the tension, their cheerful dinner conversation trailing off as they watched Marcus through the doorway. "Who's Sarah?" Tyler whispered to Emma. "My mommy," Emma replied quietly, her 7-year-old voice filled with uncertainty. "But she doesn't live with us anymore." The conversation was brief but intense. Sarah had moved back from California and wanted to see Emma. She'd gotten Marcus's new address somehow and was making noises about custody arrangements and what was best for the child. When Marcus returned to the kitchen, Emma was pressed against Victoria's side, instinctively seeking comfort from the woman who had become a steady presence in her life. "Was that my mom?" Emma asked in a small voice. Marcus nodded, sitting down heavily at the table. "She wants to see you, sweetheart." Emma's reaction surprised everyone. Instead of excitement or curiosity, she burrowed deeper into Victoria's arms. "Don't want to see her," Emma said firmly. "She left us when Daddy was sad, and she made me sad too. I like living here with Tyler and Victoria." Marcus felt his heart break and swell simultaneously. His daughter had found security and happiness in their unconventional family, and now Sarah's reappearance threatened to disrupt everything. Later that night, after both children were in bed, Marcus and Victoria sat in the living room trying to figure out how to handle the situation. "What are your legal rights?" Victoria asked. "I have primary custody, but Sarah has visitation rights if she wants to exercise them. The problem is she's been absent for so long that forcing Emma into visits might be traumatic." Marcus ran his hands through his hair. Sarah sounded different. On the phone. More aggressive. She kept asking about where we're living now and whether I can really provide for Emma. Victoria's business instincts kicked in. She's seen the address. She knows about the money. That's what I'm afraid of. Sarah left because she thought I couldn't give Emma the life she deserved. Now that Emma has that life, Sarah might want back in. The next few days were tense. Sarah called twice more, each time becoming more insistent about seeing Emma. She threatened to involve lawyers and made comments about inappropriate living situations that had Marcus worried about how a custody challenge might look to outsiders. Tyler, with the perceptiveness of childhood, picked up on everyone's anxiety and began acting out. He had meltdowns over small things, refused to do homework, and started testing boundaries he'd accepted months ago. "He's scared we're going to fall apart," Victoria explained to Marcus after Tyler had a screaming fit over being asked to put away his toys. "Children his age think everything is their fault. He probably believes that if he's difficult enough, it will somehow protect our family from changing. Emma, meanwhile, became clingy and withdrawn. She wanted Marcus or Victoria with her at all times and had nightmares about having to leave their home. The crisis came to a head on Saturday morning when Sarah showed up unannounced at their door. Marcus opened it to find his ex-wife standing on the front steps, looking polished and determined. She'd lost weight, updated her wardrobe, and carried herself with a confidence that seemed calculated to impress. "Hello, Marcus. I thought it was time we talked in person." Behind him, Marcus could hear Tyler and Emma playing in the kitchen, their voices a reminder of the peace Sarah's presence threatened to shatter. "This isn't a good time, Sarah. I think it's a perfect time. I want to see how my daughter is living." Sarah's eyes took in the mansion's impressive facade. "Quite an upgrade from our old apartment." Victoria appeared beside Marcus, and Sarah's eyes immediately assessed this new player in the situation. "You must be the employer," Sarah said with false sweetness. "I'm Emma's mother, Sarah Williams." Victoria Sterling. "And actually, the situation is a bit more complicated than employer and employee." Sarah's smile became sharp. "Oh, I'm sure it is," Emma's voice called from the kitchen. "Daddy, can Tyler and I make cookies?" Sarah's expression softened with genuine emotion at the sound of her daughter's voice. "She sounds happy." "She is happy," Marcus said firmly. "We all are. I'd like to see her now." Marcus had no legal grounds to refuse, so he reluctantly led Sarah to the kitchen where the children were measuring flour with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Emma looked up and froze when she saw Sarah. Tyler immediately moved closer to Emma, his protective instincts kicking in. "Hi, baby," Sarah said gently, crouching down to Emma's level. "Do you remember Mommy?" Emma nodded but didn't move toward Sarah. "Why are you here?" The simple question hung in the air. Sarah's carefully prepared speeches seemed to evaporate in the face of her daughter's direct honesty. "I missed you, sweetheart. I made some mistakes and I want to fix them." "You can't fix leaving," Emma said with 7-year-old logic. "You can only choose not to leave again." Tyler stepped forward, surprising everyone. "Emma doesn't want to leave. This is her family now." Sarah looked at Tyler with interest. "And you are?" "Tyler, I live here too. Emma is like my sister, and Marcus takes care of both of us, and my mom loves Emma like she's her own daughter." Tyler's voice was fierce with protective loyalty. Marcus watched this interaction with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. These children had formed bonds that transcended biology, and they were prepared to defend their family unit with everything they had. Sarah spent an hour visiting, during which Emma was polite but distant. She showed Sarah her room and some of her artwork, but there was no warmth in the interaction. When Sarah suggested taking Emma out for lunch, Emma firmly declined. "I want to stay here and make cookies with Tyler," Emma said. "Maybe you could stay and help us." It was a generous offer, from a child to a mother who had abandoned her. But Sarah seemed uncomfortable with the domestic scene. "Maybe another time, baby. Mommy has some things to take care of." After Sarah left, Emma burst into tears. "I don't understand why she came back." Emma sobbed into Marcus's chest. "I was finally happy, and now everything feels scary again." Victoria gathered both children close. "Nothing is going to change about our family unless we all want it to change. Emma, you live here because this is your home, not because of any adult arrangements." Tyler nodded seriously. "We won't let anyone break up our family." That evening, Victoria made a phone call to her lawyer while Marcus put the children to bed. When she found him later, she had a determined expression on her face. "I want to adopt Emma," Victoria said without preamble. Marcus stared at her. "What?" "I love that little girl like she's my own daughter. I want to make it official, so she never has to worry about being taken away from the family she's chosen." Victoria sat down beside Marcus. "With your permission, of course." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. "You'd do that?" "Marcus, Emma isn't just living in my house. She's living in my heart. Tyler isn't just accepting her as a playmate, he's claiming her as his sister. We're not playing house anymore, we're being a family. They talked through the logistics and legal implications until late in the night. With Victoria's adoption of Emma and their clear documentation of Sarah's abandonment, they could create a stable legal foundation for their unconventional family. What about Tyler's father? Marcus asked. David could still cause problems. Victoria's expression hardened. David gave up the right to disrupt Tyler's happiness when he chose his convenience over his son's needs. If he wants to be part of Tyler's life, he can learn to do it in ways that support Tyler's well-being instead of undermining it. As they prepared for bed, both felt a sense of resolution. They weren't just managing a household anymore. They were actively choosing to build a family together. The challenges ahead would be faced as a team, with the children's happiness and security as their primary concern. In the morning, they would begin the legal process of making their family official. But tonight, for the first time since Sarah's call, the house felt peaceful again. Upstairs, Tyler and Emma were sleeping soundly, secure in the knowledge that the adults in their lives were committed to protecting the family they had all worked together to create. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the courthouse wearing the best suit he'd ever owned, watching Victoria officially adopt Emma. The little girl wore a white dress she'd picked out herself and held Tyler's hand throughout the ceremony. Tyler had insisted on wearing his fancy shoes because, as he explained to the judge, "This is the most important day for our family." The judge, a kind woman in her 60s, smiled at the unconventional family before her. "Emma, do you understand what's happening today?" the judge asked gently. Emma nodded seriously. "Victoria's becoming my legal mom, so no one can ever make me leave my family again." "And how do you feel about that?" Emma looked at Victoria, then at Marcus, then at Tyler. "I feel like the luckiest girl in the world because I get to have the best daddy, the best new mom, and the best brother ever." Tyler squeezed Emma's hand and whispered loudly, "You're the best sister too." When the judge signed the papers, making Victoria legally Emma's adoptive mother, Tyler cheered so loudly that the bailiff had to remind him they were in a courtroom. Emma launched herself into Victoria's arms, then Marcus's, then Tyler's, making sure everyone got equal celebration hugs. Outside the courthouse, they took family photos on the steps. Marcus looked at the images later and marveled at how natural they all looked together. How Tyler and Emma had the same mischievous smiles. How Victoria's arm around Emma seemed perfectly natural. How he himself looked more relaxed and happy than he had in years. The celebration continued at home with a dinner party that included some of Tyler's school friends and their families, Emma's teacher, who had become like a grandmother figure to both children, and Maria, the housekeeper, who had watched their family grow with approval and affection. "So what do we call you now?" asked Mrs. Henderson from Tyler's soccer team, addressing the unique family structure with curiosity rather than judgment. "We're the Sterling Williams family," Tyler announced proudly. "Victoria is my mom and Emma's mom, Marcus is Emma's dad and like my dad, and Emma is my sister and I'm her brother." Emma nodded enthusiastically, "And we all live together and take care of each other, which is what families do." The adults smiled at the children's simple explanation of something that had seemed so complicated to navigate legally and socially. As the evening wound down and guests departed, Sarah appeared at the door one last time. Marcus tensed, but Victoria placed a calming hand on his arm. Sarah looked different, less polished, more uncertain. "I heard about the adoption," she said quietly. "I wanted to congratulate Emma." Emma appeared beside Marcus, no longer the scared child from months ago, but a confident girl secure in her family's love. "Hi, Sarah," Emma said politely. She'd started calling her biological mother by her first name, creating distance that felt comfortable to her. "I brought you something," Sarah said, holding out a small wrapped gift. "For your special day." Emma accepted the gift but didn't open it immediately. "Thank you. Would you like to meet my mom, Victoria?" The casual way Emma introduced Victoria as her mom made Sarah's face tighten briefly, but she managed to smile. "We've met before. Congratulations, Victoria. You're getting an amazing little girl." "I know I am," Victoria replied warmly. Emma makes our family complete. Sarah talked with Emma for a few more minutes, asking about school and friends. Emma was polite, but didn't invite Sarah to stay longer or suggest future meetings. When Sarah finally left, Emma watched through the window until the car disappeared. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around his daughter. Emma leaned against him. "I'm sad for her that she doesn't know how to be part of a family. But I'm not sad for me anymore." Tyler, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "Maybe some people are better at leaving than staying. That's okay because other people are better at staying than leaving." Marcus and Victoria exchanged glances, amazed once again at the wisdom their children showed in processing complex adult situations. Later that evening, after both children were finally asleep, Marcus and Victoria sat in the backyard. They'd all worked together to transform. The treehouse Tyler and Emma had designed was nearly finished, complete with a rope ladder, windows, and a sign that read, "Sterling Williams Family Fort. No grown-ups allowed, except for emergencies." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't taken that job?" Marcus asked, pulling Victoria closer on the porch swing they'd installed last month. "I think we would have found each other eventually," Victoria replied. "Tyler needed a father figure. Emma needed stability. You needed security, and I needed to learn that love doesn't have to be complicated to be real." Marcus thought about the man he'd been a year ago. Desperate, struggling, afraid he was failing Emma. Now he was part of a family that worked not because it fit traditional patterns, but because everyone in it had chosen to commit to making it work. "I love you," he said simply, the words he'd been feeling for months but hadn't found the courage to say. Victoria turned in his arms, her face glowing in the porch light. "I love you too. All of you. This whole chaotic, wonderful family we've created." They kissed while the sound of sprinklers watered the lawn, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked. It was perfectly ordinary and perfectly magical at the same time. Inside the house, Tyler appeared at his bedroom window and saw his parents kissing on the porch swing. Instead of being embarrassed, he smiled widely and ran to Emma's room. "Emma, wake up. Mom and Dad are kissing on the porch like people do in movies." Emma sat up sleepily. "Does that mean they're going to get married?" Tyler considered this. "I think they're already married in all the ways that matter. They just might want to make it official like Mom did with you." Emma grinned. "That would be so cool. Then you'd officially be my brother instead of just practically my brother." "I'm already officially your brother," Tyler said seriously. "We decided that ourselves, remember?" The next morning at breakfast, the children presented their parents with a hand-drawn certificate declaring Marcus and Victoria married by kid law and themselves official siblings by choice. Marcus and Victoria laughed at the children's initiative, but as they looked at each other across the breakfast table, they both realized the children might be onto something. "What do you think about making it legal?" Victoria asked later while the children were at school. "Are you proposing to me, Victoria Sterling?" Victoria grinned. "I think I am, Marcus Williams. Then I accept on behalf of myself and my daughter. And I accept on behalf of myself and my son." They planned a simple ceremony in their backyard 6 months later. Tyler walked Emma down the aisle while she scattered flower petals. Emma held the rings while Tyler served as best man. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, both children shouted, "No way!" so enthusiastically that the small gathering of friends and family burst into laughter. During their vows, Marcus promised to love Victoria and Tyler with the same devotion he gave Emma. Victoria promised to cherish Marcus and Emma with the same fierce protection she gave Tyler. The children exchanged their own vows, promising to be the best siblings they could be and to always stick together no matter what. As they signed the marriage certificate, Tyler asked the minister, "Does this mean we're a real family now?" The minister smiled at the boy's question. "Son, you've been a real family since the day you chose to take care of each other. This just makes it official." That evening, as the Sterling Williams family cleaned up from their wedding celebration, Emma found the gift Sarah had brought months ago on her adoption day. She'd never opened it, but now she felt ready. Inside was a photo of Emma as a baby, smiling in Sarah's arms, along with a note. For Emma, So you know you were loved from the very beginning, even when I didn't know how to show it properly. I hope your new family gives you everything I couldn't. Love always, Sarah. Emma showed the photo to her family, and Victoria carefully placed it in Emma's baby book alongside photos from their courthouse adoption day and backyard wedding. Everyone who loves you gets to be part of your story, Victoria explained. Even the parts that were complicated, Tyler nodded wisely. But the best part is that we get to write the ending together. As Marcus tucked both children into their beds that night, in the house that had become their forever home, in the family they had all chosen and fought to protect, he reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them together. He'd answered a job advertisement looking for financial security and found something much more valuable, a family that proved love isn't about biology or traditional structures. It's about people who choose to stay, to support each other through difficulties and to celebrate each other's victories. Outside their windows, the lights of the city twinkled like stars, and inside their home, the Sterling Williams family slept soundly, secure in the knowledge that whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, they would face them together.